Hello, this is A Switch, and I realize it's already like mostly through September, but um, I've been wanting to honor the seasons more, and as a way to hold myself more accountable, I decided to start these videos, and hopefully other people can get something out of them as well. I'm gonna do this video is gonna be on more of the mundane aspect of appreciating the seasons. I'm also gonna do one that's focused on more of the pagan Sabbats as well. I plan at least doing a full year of both of these types of videos, and then we'll kind of address and see if we still want to do it or not. We'll start with stuff that is not out of one of my books that I've gotten on this topic, but so it's September. It is the beginning of fall, and you're already, if you live in America like I do, you already see pumpkin spice everywhere. Apples are on sale, local apples. You've got a lot of baking stuff coming out, a lot of Halloween themed stuff. So just going out and shopping can kind of get you into the season. But some of us are a little bit more need a little bit more than that. And I like to go out to the park or somewhere in nature, but so you don't always have the energy to do that, and not everyone has the capability to do that as well. So sometimes taking little moments, like on your way out to get the mail, if you have a mailbox outside, or like to your car, to just look around you and see where the weather is at. And if the leaves are turning, I know some people who live in the bigger cities may not always be able to have trees in visual sight always, but you can kind of take notice of how the weather is changing, what kind of foods are available. For those who aren't the most mobile, having seasonal foods delivered to you can be a way that you can also partake in the seasonal foods. There's a lot of festivals that go around this time of year, and I don't always take the opportunity to go to them, but they are also a fun way to appreciate this time of year. I love looking at the changing of leaves, but I don't always take advantage of that. So I have decided to see if I can't find resources to help get me into the vibe of fall and other whatever time of year it is. One book I recently found, let's see if we can get a good look at it, is the Nature Almanac. And this book goes anywhere from like things that are scientific, like leaf identifications, going into like what plants, how to plant them, gestational periods, that sort of thing, when to harvest. It also goes into things like meditation and herbs. So it runs a gambit of things that does not have to be done in a certain tradition. It doesn't matter what you subscribe to on a spiritual level, you can appreciate this book. And I'll show you some examples of the September. See, it's got a really pretty September artwork, and it says, September, time to be mindful, read, write, listen, and reflect whilst outside on parks, fields, or gardens. In parks, fields, or gardens. And like the first section is just, it's talking about like how nature speaks to each other. And the second part is specifically about potatoes and growing potatoes, when to harvest it, that sort of thing. It starts talking, and then it goes into foraging or wildcrafting, herbs, and just some general basic knowledge on it for those who may not know much about it. Then it goes into like leaves. If you ever did like biology, and well, most of us, I would hope, did like biology in school, it goes on about identifying leaves, which some people enjoy. It's not for everyone though. And then it goes into a meditation, and it's talking about waving goodbye and releasing things. Which, you know, we're going into the time of year where, you know, in nature, at least in the area where I live in the northern hemisphere, where, you know, the plants are starting to turn. Some stuff has already started to be harvested. So it's you kind of start thinking about what you want to hold on to and what you don't necessarily need for the upcoming season, or at least some people do anyway. And it's talking about the healing power of water, herbal baths, goes into echinacea, So yeah, it covers a lot of things, people who want to connect more with nature. I do really appreciate this book. I've only done August and September in it so far. Most of them are short little blurbs that you can read in like 5-10 minutes. The meditations do tend to be a little bit longer. um, I'm also on the lookout for anything similar that deals with the seasons that dropped things, good lord, that are not magic based, because as if you've been on a new age or earth based spiritual path for a while, you see the same information year after year about, the magical celebrations. And sometimes it's nice to connect on a more mundane level, to help spark the, like, connecting on an everyday energy. My next book, this one's a little bit of an older book. It's like 20 years old, but it's called Romancing the Ordinary. And it is woman based. It's written by a woman with a focus on women readers. So it may not be for everybody. This one, the sections do tend to be a little bit longer sometimes. So I will not be like reading this whole thing to you guys. I will read you blurbs or maybe one like small section out of it if it hits me or I feel like it's really relevant. Here we go. And so the first section, I'll show you this. The imageries are all black and white, but it says September, autumn. Autumn asks that we prepare for the future, that we be wise in the ways of gardening and keeping. But it also asks what we learn to let go, to acknowledge the beauty of sparseness. September's sweet afterglow reminds us that sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between bad luck and new beginnings. Let the turning of the seasons gently instruct you into the art of choosing your losses. We're swapping tales of mythical women, honoring secret anniversaries of the heart, healing with tender mercies, cozy naps, scented sleep pillows, sensuous sulking, apple dumpling days. So lead yourself into temptation with perfectly plausible passions. Life's only sin is a day without desire and a night without thanks. So it speaks of the harvest of those things that you're honoring, but it's talking about the slowing down days from the energy of summer. Summer is very energetic, too much for some of us at times. But it's talking about, like I mentioned earlier, the year is starting to get into its phase where things are slowing down. They're dying back. The earth, once it hits into its winter season, will be resting. So, it asking you to look at, the beauty of letting go of those things that you don't need right now. And I really liked that because, you this time of year, some people start thinking about fall cleaning on a, very, mundane level, fall cleaning. And so you look at, on a physical level, your house, what you want to clean, what you want to get in order before winter, because you're going to be cooped inside for longer in winter. What can you live with yourself? How can you live, like, what environment can you live within your own home that won't drive you crazy by the time spring comes? And it's also a good metaphor on a spiritual level of looking at, what just needs to die away in your life. And not necessarily completely die away, because not everything, most things don't completely die in winter. But what things need to let rest. And that's a journey for everybody. And that's and that's going to look different for everyone. So if you guys are interested, I can do a video on things that have helped me let go of things, since that is kind of in the energy of fall. It will be, for those who are interested, a very personal journey, and a lot of times, if not always, it is something that's not going to take more than just one session or one season of letting things go. There have been things in my past that I have thought I have dealt with. I thought I let them go. But it always comes around and it's like, but you didn't, there's this other aspect that you're now ready to deal with. see, there was... So you got a lot of thought-provoking stuff in this book like that. And then it also has some recipes. These sections that are called Come to Your Senses is usually recipes. Sometimes it is asking you to partake in your physical senses one way or another. This one is about resting. A little further on, it has a section about sleep pillows, and it gives you some recipes, herbal recipes, which, if it's your first time using an herb, I highly suggest that you do a skin test so that you know if you're allergic or not, so that you're not causing some health issues. For, a lot of your sleep pillows, it's going to be things like lavender, chamomile, some people like vanilla, some people like a little bit of citrus to it, bergamot. It has some sections on getting through some of your emotions. One part here says, part of getting over it is knowing that you will never get over it. So kind of like what I mentioned earlier is that, it always comes back around. It's not a lot of people's traumas, a lot of people's hurts and aches. It never completely goes away. It's kind of like grief. If you ever lost somebody, and most of us have lost at least a grandparent or something, you know that it hurt. It's like the ocean and going, like, calming from a storm. Like, at the initial part of the storm, it is rough. It is so hard. You don't know if you're going to keep your head above the water. But as the storm calms, you will still have waves that hit you. And, I was very connected with my father's mother, my paternal grandmother. And she still have moments, even though she's been passed away for probably about a decade now. I still have moments where the grief hits. It's not nearly as strong as it was, doesn't last as long. But now when that happens, I take a moment to remember her and appreciate her. And not everyone is going to get to that point at the same time. Grief is a very personal journey. So, and if you are experiencing grief in a way that you don't know if you can handle it by yourself, please reach out to somebody. There are a lot of hotlines you can find online, support groups. Not everyone is as lucky as I am that has a center in my city where it has free grief counseling. It's like there's a group session and then there's a one-on-one, but I know there's a lot of online groups that you can be a part of. So please reach out if you need to. I think what I'm going to end with, it also has, like I mentioned in that blurb, the intro blurb, some apple recipes. Since, this is, at least if you live in North America, it is apple season. I'm going to end it with this book. It has, it's called Between the Lines, and it's all about Eve. It says, "Let me tell you the other story of Eve. Eve did a brave and beautiful thing. She reached her arm past the injunction of the Father God. She picked the apple from the tree and bit into its ripe and ready flesh. She knew that it was good, and that she passed the apple on to Adam, that he may taste the goodness of it also. In that moment, Adam and Eve awoke from their primordial dream, and their eyes were opened. They saw the beauty of their forms and their splendor of their own light. Now Eve was wise from the beginning, because she was able to listen deeply. Eve listened, and beneath the clamor of the Father voice, which told her to do its bidding, without questioning, she could hear the softer whisper of a truer life. Eve chose this way of life, according to her own conscience, and she took the fruit. In that one moment, Eve blessed all generations to come with the gift of being able to take part in the creation of their own world. Eve knew to take the apple. She had the greatness of heart to reach her own hand out in the face of all reason. Eve had courage because she knew that in eating the fruit of a conscious life, she would be living the pain as well as the joy. And I really love this because I really love when people take stories that have been used to oppress people, to belittle them, to make them stay obedient, and rewrite it in ways that are empowering. Ways that help people through things like their trauma, through religious traumas, through maybe oppressive childhoods, a society that tells you that you should sit down and shut up just because you were born in the wrong form, whatever form that may be. And I just don't know, I just love it because it sums up a lot of my spiritual journey of trying to find who I am outside of what I was told who I was as a child, and who society and the religious culture of my country has told me I should be. Stories like this have helped me grow as a person, and they're really close to my heart. It reminds me of how people have taken the story of Persephone and Hades, and how a lot of the older stories, Persephone was forced to be with Hades, and she didn't really have any choice in the matter. And now a lot of the people are retelling the story as she's a young woman growing into her own identity and choosing for herself where she wants to be and what she wants to do. And she chooses to be a duality of a spring life goddess and an underworld queen goddess. Like I said, I love those stories because it shows how our the spirituality of our culture and the spiritual needs of our culture is shifting. I do not remember the source, but I remember coming across a post online somewhere, and it talked about how a lot of your Greek myths and the Greek gods reflect nature and humans' nature at the time. So a lot of the myths, so you have like Poseidon is very, he can be very moody, but he can also be very calm and benevolent. That's much like the ocean. Sometimes the oceans are calm and we get a lot of abundance from fishing, and sometimes the ocean will kill people. So a lot of the stories reflect like that, and it's very telling that our society is taking these older myths and changing them to what they need. I wanted to talk about pumpkin spice, and I know you either love it or you hate it, and a lot of people make fun of it, but it is very interesting because if you look up the spices in pumpkin spice and you look up like a lot of the spiritual connotations with it, there's a lot of warmth and protection and prosperity assigned to a lot of these spices. So it's kind of like an abundance and just an all-around like thankfulness in a cup, which is very fitting with Thanksgiving. And I know September isn't Thanksgiving, but it is one of the major holidays in fall that's coming up. And it happens in different months in different countries. So even though it's November in America, I believe it's also in October in Canada. So it's probably fitting to just kind of address it now instead of worrying about when whatever audience is going to watch this is going to have their Thanksgiving. If you guys want me to go more in depth with the specific spices in pumpkin spice, I can always do a short or something on that, so let me know. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you later.